A column of Russian vehicles rolls onto open ground. No tree line, no buildings, nothing but flat white salt for miles in every direction. Supplies head toward the front the only way this terrain allows, one road at a time. Somewhere above them, a small rotor is already turning. Nobody in that convoy sees it, but it has already seen them. A few minutes pass. Then the lead vehicle stops moving, then the one behind it, then the one behind that. People who watch this footage keep asking the same question. Which weapon did this? A new drone, a secret missile, something classified nobody's supposed to know about yet. That's the wrong question. No single weapon defeated that convoy. 6 separate systems had to work together perfectly in order for that ambush to happen the way it did. Break any one link and those trucks drive through untouched. So that's what we're going to take apart today. Not the explosion, the chain that led to it. Before the chain, the ground. The Sivash is a shallow network of salt lagoons wedged between the Ukrainian mainland and occupied Crimea. Russian soldiers have a nickname for it, the Rotten Sea. Foul-smelling, ankle-deep in places, and useless for hiding anything larger than a person. One clarification before the analysis continues. This script reconstructs a representative engagement built from a well-documented pattern, repeated strikes on convoys and crossing points in this exact corridor, rather than one single confirmed incident with a public date and unit ID. The terrain, the tactics, and the technology are all real and verifiable. The specific convoy in our cold open is a composite, and it stays labeled as one. What matters strategically is this. Crossing the Sivash means using one of a handful of narrow causeways, because the salt water won't support armor and the mud won't support trucks. Russian logistics feeding Crimea have to funnel through those choke points, and there are only a few of them on the entire map. Ukraine doesn't need to find a needle in a haystack out here, it needs to watch a doorway. Every truck that skips the long detour through Armyansk to save time ends up funneling through the same handful of crossings instead. Predictability is a resource, and out here, Russia is handing it over for free. That's the setup. Now the chain. Finding a convoy starts long before any drone gets airborne. Ukraine's military draws on commercial satellite imagery, intercepted radio chatter, and a network of civilians on occupied territory who report troop movements through encrypted channels. It's unglamorous work, mostly paperwork with a battlefield attached to it, but it produces something the Soviet-style command structure Russia still runs on was never built to survive. A rough location in near real time, fed by ordinary people, instead of a single overworked reconnaissance battalion. Open source analysts add another layer on top of this. Volunteers scattered across the world cross-check convoy footage against satellite passes and old road markers, sometimes confirming a location faster than a formal military intelligence cell could. None of them fire a weapon. They just make sure the people who do aren't guessing. Therefore, the convoy is found before it ever reaches the causeway. But being found isn't the same as being targetable. That's step 2. Fixing means turning a rough tip into exact coordinates. This is where Ukraine's Delta system comes in, a battlefield management platform built to NATO data standards that pulls satellite feeds, drone footage, and human reports into one shared picture. Analysts using systems like this have compressed what used to take artillery units close to 20 minutes down to roughly 2. That gap, 20 minutes versus 2, is the difference between striking a convoy and striking the empty road it already left. Every unit connected to Delta sees the same map at the same time, instead of radioing coordinates up a chain of command and waiting for someone senior to approve them. Fewer hops, fewer chances for the target to move before anyone pulls a trigger. But a fixed position on a map is still just a DOT. Someone has to keep eyes on it while the strike gets organized. That's tracking. A relay drone climbs high enough to hold a stable video and data link, often bouncing signal through a mesh of Starlink terminals scattered near the front line. That link is what lets a strike drone operator sitting in a bunker kilometers away see the same road the convoy is driving on, live, without exposing a single Ukrainian soldier at the front. Russia knows this link is the weak point, and its electronic warfare units try to break it constantly, jamming GPS signals and radio frequencies across whole sectors of the front. When a link drops, operators fall back on pre-planned relay points other drones position specifically to catch the handoff if the first one goes dark. Lose one relay, and the picture picture doesn't disappear, it just gets a little grainier for a few seconds. So this step becomes a fight inside the fight, a constant back and forth between Ukrainian frequency hopping software and Russian jamming trucks, happening in the same minutes as the convoy is rolling toward the salt flat. Not every vehicle in a convoy matters equally, so someone has to decide what gets hit first. Fuel trucks and ammunition carriers are usually prioritized over troop transports because a burning fuel truck can block the only road out and turn the whole column into a parking lot. Air defense escorts and command vehicles rank close behind. Kill the vehicle jamming your drones or coordinating the convoy's response, and everything behind it gets slower and more confused. But on a causeway with water on both sides, target selection gets brutally simple. Hit the lead vehicle and the rear vehicle, and the ones in between have nowhere to go. No shoulder to pull onto, no side road to reverse into, just salt water on the left, salt water on the right, and a burning truck at each end. This is also why the Sivash crossing, specifically places like Chanhar, keep showing up in strike reports again and again. The terrain does half the targeting work before a single operator picks up a controller. This is the part people call the wonder weapon. It's actually the least mysterious link in the chain. First-person view strike drones, cheap, disposable, and flown directly into a target by an operator watching through goggles, do a lot of the close-in work. Loitering munitions, drones that circle above a target area before diving in, handle the ones too far or too well defended for an FPV run. Russian crews aren't sitting there defenseless. Vehicles get wrapped in improvised steel cages soldiers have nicknamed cope cages, meant to detonate a drone before it reaches the hull. Some tanks carry Stora, an older countermeasure system built to jam anti-tank missile guidance rather than drones. Convoys sometimes travel with mobile jamming trucks running alongside them. But cages built to stop a slow, predictable missile don't stop a small drone that can adjust its approach angle mid-flight. And jamming trucks can only cover so much bandwidth at once, which means an operator flying on an unexpected frequency or flying by direct line of sight instead of GPS can still get through. Some convoys travel with short-range AIR defense escorts too, systems built to shoot down aircraft and larger drones. Against a small FPV-type drone flying low and fast, most of those systems are simply too slow to react, built for a different threat than the one now showing up, which means this fight really comes down to software versus countermeasure, updated on both sides every few weeks. Neither one stays ahead for long. Once the strike lands, the same relay drone that helped track the convoy loiters to confirm the hit. That footage doesn't just end up online for morale purposes. It feeds back into the targeting system, confirming which vehicle types survive, which drone types, which cages hold up, and which routes Russia is likely to reroute onto next. There's a public-facing use for that same footage too, cut down for social media, and it's tempting to treat that as the whole story. The version analysts work from runs longer, unedited, and boring on purpose, a record rather than a highlight reel, so the loop doesn't close, it resets. Every convoy that gets hit teaches the system something it uses on the next one. Here's the bigger picture underneath all 6 steps. Defense analysts, including researchers at RUSI who have spent years studying this war up close, keep coming back to the same conclusion. Platform performance still matters, but the speed of the loop connecting sensor to shooter increasingly matters just as much, sometimes more. A slightly worse drone, flown by an operator who gets a fix in 2 minutes, beats a slightly better drone, flown by an operator who gets a fix in 20. That's what the 20-minute to 2-minute gap in the fix stage buys on a real road, with a real convoy on it. NATO militaries have taken notice, and not quietly. Several Allied armies are now running their own exercises specifically to compress the time between spotting a target and hitting it, borrowing the logic directly from what has been tested on this battlefield for 4 years straight. That's a strange position for a military alliance built around expensive, exquisite platforms to find itself in, watching a war fought largely with drones that cost less than a car. It is why Ukraine keeps hitting the same causeways over and over instead of chasing one dramatic strike. Along the broader supply corridor feeding Crimea, sustained drone and strike campaigns have reportedly cut Russian military road traffic by as much as 70% during their most effective windows. That number does not come from one convoy. It comes from an entire kill chain running week after week, adjusting each time Russia adjusts back. Russia is not standing still either. Its own reconnaissance strike loops have gotten measurably faster since the first year of the war, and its jamming has forced Ukrainian units to keep rewriting their own software just to stay ahead. Neither side owns a permanent advantage here. The edge belongs to whichever one iterates faster, week over week. So go back to that convoy rolling onto the salt flat. It was not beaten by a wonder weapon sitting in a lab somewhere. It was beaten by 6 ordinary steps executed faster than the other side could adapt to them, finding, fixing, tracking, targeting, engaging, and assessing, in a loop that never really stops running. That's the actual lesson this war keeps handing modern militaries, whether they want to hear it or not. The individual drone gets the headline. The chain that put it exactly where it needed to be, exactly when it needed to be there, is the part worth studying. If you want to see how that same kill chain looks when it's aimed at something much harder to hit, a moving target at sea instead of a convoy on a causeway, that breakdown is on screen now.